SpaceX and Elon Musk over the years be consistent in developing the Starship as a mobility space vehicle that will make humans exist among the stars as a community. Even though the Starship project is such an exciting one, it's also a challenging task to invent a starship that will transform the scope of human existence in the universe. But it looks like there is always a cause for explosion during every SpaceX test flight, which keeps the company on its feet to reiterate and study flight parameters to gain useful knowledge on how to make next test flight a success. SpaceX is known for blowing up Starship at just the first test flight. Although, as for the last test, the company's intent is not to blow it up. But since the first flight is always a trial and error adventure, SpaceX has to watch what will play out as the Starship attains its test flight beyond the launch mount for the first time. Why is SpaceX Starship always blowing up during the first launch? Or is it always a setup situation to witch hunt the human race to Mars? Let's find out. The overall demonstration of the last Starship launch was a mission, or call it a test flight, of the new rocket's ability to fire up and launch above the 500-foot-tall launch tower. Although the Starship exploded during the first test flight, the mission could be said to be a success because for over 10 decades now, SpaceX has been working on this gargantuan rocket to fly it into space and eventually land it on Mars. Flying it into the sky has been achieved, but flying it into orbit still remains a dream. Thereafter, flying it to Mars, which is the next destination for human settlement. As soon as Space's massive Starship launched from Texas on its first full test, the 400-foot stack of hardware began to tumble until it broke apart in a fiery explosion over the Gulf of Mexico. At liftoff, some of the rocket's 33 Raptor engines failed to fire up as planned, and after about 30 minutes into the flight, the Starship begins to tumble at roughly 3 minutes into flight, and kicked off just after the rocket's Starship upper stage and Super Heavy booster failed to separate. Some experts and spectators were left wondering if the test flight's explosive conclusion was the result of aerodynamic forces shearing the vehicle apart, or if it was purposefully blown up by the Flight Termination System, or FTS. SpaceX did later confirm the rocket's breakup was triggered by FTS. Flight termination systems are essentially explosives built into key areas of rockets and are, at least on newer vehicles, automatically triggered if a hardware failure is detected. They're a safety and licensing requirement and are especially important if a rocket appears to veer off course. The company also confirmed earlier suspicions that the spacecraft may have triggered its flight termination system on both booster and ship. In other words, SpaceX blew up its own Starship and Super Heavy booster 4 minutes into the flight as a precautionary measure because things weren't going according to plan. Ah well, there's always next time. SpaceX's Flight Termination System, FTS, allows the rocket to virtually tear itself into pieces mid-flight in the event of any deviations from the original flight path in order to ensure the safety of the rocket's range. That also means the explosion wasn't quite a rapid unscheduled disassembly, as SpaceX principal integration engineer John Sprecher described it during today's live stream, and more of a rapid ordered disassembly, as Harvard astronomer and space tracker Jonathan McDowell argued. It was a powerful event that also caught the attention of federal regulators. The Federal Aviation Administration officially kicked off an investigation following the explosion. An anomaly occurred during the ascent and prior to stage separation, resulting in a loss of the vehicle, the FAA said in a statement. No injuries or public property damage have been reported. That means SpaceX will have to go through the FAA first if it wants to get a license to kick off another attempt at getting its Starship orbital. This is standard practice for all mishap investigations, the regulator clarified in its statement. Despite the setback and subsequent investigation, Musk is keen on getting the next prototype Starship and Super Heavy booster to the launch pad. SpaceX philosophy is more like fail fast, but learn faster. NASA is more like we can't afford to have anything explode while we're learning. We have to be ready to go. It's taxpayers' dollars. You have to admit this. I've seen many rockets blow up in flight. As soon as a rocket gets out of aerodynamic alignment, called a symmetric flight, the forces on it are so great, especially after it reaches high Mach. This rocket tumbled not once but twice and remained intact. That is a testament to what a beast this rocket is going to be. Starship is a friggin' monster of a rocket. Did anybody saw how it stumbled down with both stages still attached and preserving its structural integrity despite the pressure and stress on its steel frame after losing aerodynamic alignment immediately after takeoff? The quality, materials, and technique they used in its construction are beyond words. The fact Starship was was able to leave the launch pad in one piece was a huge success. This thing is so massively tall and heavy, I thought under full thrust the fully filled rocket could buckle under the extreme forces and fold in half. It not only held together, it stayed as one piece even when tumbling end over end. Surprisingly very solid. And guess what? It's the first time it has left the launch pad and even fly beyond the launch tower, up to 24 miles up there. Most of the damage was done from the launch pad. It became dust and bullets that destroyed the engines and probably caused the malfunction in the stage separation. It would be good to know if anything else went wrong. The failure and restarting of one specific booster engine is the most exciting for me. It is not easy to ignite a space engine, let alone shut it down and restarting it again. The fact that this launch was unmanned but closely supervised was good, and I feel had not the issues seen just at launch had happened, it would have made it to orbit. I felt that the loss of the Raptor engines and some evidence of explosions near the gimbaled engines may have been due to concrete from the bottom of the launch pad hitting the engines, as it can be seen flying into the ocean as well. I have never seen a launch cloud as big as that launch cloud or a launch structure as impacted after launch, which of course would be expected given the mighty thrust of all those engines. Despite that, the rocket survived max Q and it seemed like it might have made it to stage separation, but I felt if the gimbaling system was partially operating, that is what might have caused the tumbling to happen if the thrust vectored in the wrong direction. The rocket, massive as it was, even with 3 Raptors initially out, flew straight and true to quite a height above the atmosphere, but once it gets into the absence of atmosphere, it is harder to keep it going without the gimbaled rocket motors moving in concert. There is nothing serious that went wrong as far as we can tell right now. There were already works underway to install better fire/blast protection mechanisms below the launch pad. They were halted so this flight could take place. In other words, SpaceX knew full well that the pad would suffer serious damage due to the launch. But it seems they figured that the data they would gather by launching now would be more valuable than waiting for the water deluge system and flame diverter being installed. There is already a full new stack ready to fly and a second one either ready or days away from being ready, so there is no problem in that respect. The biggest challenge now is just getting the pad sorted out and of course showing the FAA that these first flight issues have been mitigated before trying again. Paperwork and processes being what they are, we are likely to see a similar situation as we did with this launch, where SpaceX is able to launch weeks before the paperwork allowing them to launch is finalized. At the very least, you have to prove to the FAA that you can blow it up exactly when you want to and have debris field 1000% where you intend it to be. In any case, this is a very exciting time to be alive. We are finally finding our way to space in a reliable and cheaply repeatable way. With Starship and its successor, the cost of launching anything into space will drop so dramatically that for the first time ever, space will become a place where business can be conducted. For many organizations, the issue will not be the cost to put something up there, but the cost of being stuck with only Earth resources and not making use of the unlimited possibilities of space. What people usually don't get is this will open a new chapter in space exploration. The space station, Hubble, James Webb were all limited by the rocket's capacity. Starship is the start of a new era. There are companies out there already with plans based on the cargo size of Starship. Imagine rotating space stations, massive telescopes, a space dock in orbit. It really will change the world. Musk is a true captain of industry. It is my hope that he ushers in a new era where industry is no longer crippled by the fear of failure. Embracing first principle thinking, we should view risk-taking and setbacks as integral components of the journey towards achieving ambitious goals. Do you think Musk will achieve all of his plans soon? Look deeper about how will the trip to Mars be and when, just click on the video.